not to like?
Hmm.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on your perspective.
Chick-fil-A. What if you don't eat chicken?
You don't like chicken? You don't eat chicken? You don't eat meat? You don't
This
like pickle
is the
juice?
Grow Business Podcast
Like
with
pickle
Cory
juice.
Mosley.
Yeah, there's a lot going on,
There is a lot going on.
out here. I don't know. I don't know what to say. There was too much pre-conversation before we came on, but
Left a lot of our swings on.
yeah, we got a lot of the good stuff out already. I don't want to do that. Well, hello. You're in the right place. I know you didn't know what was going on. We don't sometimes either when we're getting started, but this is the Grow Business Podcast. I'm your host, Cory Mosley. Oh, all right. We're doing we're doing claps when we announce that, and then we do something when I say my name. I'm Cory Mosley. Hold on, Buckaroo. Well, that's not the right one. That's not what we want. I'm joined. We're working it out, folks. I'm joined today. This is why we need pre-podcast recording meetings. We're like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then you do that, right?
It's like a shift briefing.
Yes, exactly. Well, that voice you recognize if you're listening is none other than LG 007 Lon Graham is in the house joining us today.
Voice of reason.
It's good to be here, Cory. It's good to see you.
Yeah. And I don't know. Catatonic is Willie H. Willie H is here. Yeah. Funny, Lon. Willie H always gets his one right.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Like when it's time to hit his button, other people, anything can happen. But he always gets his right. So
He's locked and loaded.
well, we're super excited to be here for another week. We're having a lot of offline conversations while we're getting set up, covering a lot of different topics. For those of you who are streaming us on, not looking at the video, not looking at us on YouTube or on CoryMotors.com, LG 007 does not realize it's still winter and it's still breaking out the short sleeve. I've always wondered, is the vest do you think what is that, chest protection? Because with the short sleeve, the arms are exposed. So is it just about getting the chest area protected when you put the vest on?
Well, it's the core, right? It's to keep the core warm.
So that's what it is.
Yeah.
But you're willing to lose hands and elbows, but you can protect the chest.
Not normally.
Okay.
Normally I'm all sleeved out, right?
Yeah. Well, that's why I was like, okay, great. Maybe he was golfing or something. I don't know.
It would have been nice to be able to do that today.
It was one of those, I don't know. It was kind of crappy day out today.
It was raining. It was semi-warm, which is what inspired.
Don't let that fool you.
Right.
As my mother will say, that's pneumonia weather.
Well, that's 100%. Lord have mercy.
Pneumonia, not to be confused with ammonia. It says
exactly.
pneumonia weather. That's what they used to say. And I just say, Mother, I don't think that's how getting a cold and getting sick works. I don't think it works that way. I think that's about viral, being exposed to viral things. But who am I to second guess a woman from the 1940s? I'm not going to do that, right?
We'll never let logic get in the way of good folklore.
They know. So,
right.
So glad to have you here.
It's good to see you.
I'm going to make sure we try to turn down the air as cold as possible in here so I can see if I can freeze you out before we're...
So if we get the willies and the goosebumps
going on. Yeah,
go.
let's see if we can get something happen. I want goosebumps on your head. I want to see if we can get some head goosebumps.
Well, the difference in the head, though, is you'll get them, too.
Yeah, maybe. I'm much warmer than you. All right, we're derailed already. So if you haven't noticed, for us, we want to have a good time. We want to educate. We want to motivate, but we want to edutain.
Right.
And that's what we always try to do. We've been talking about martial arts, some other things offline. Did you ever studied any martial arts? Was that ever an interest?
I watched Bruce Lee when I was a kid.
Okay, you watched it. Your parents never put you in anything, karate or anything like that?
No, because I would have had to give up baseball or basketball.
Okay.
I would have had to exchange something
Okay.
to play, a sport that I was playing in that season.
Yeah, so you were doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I did a little jujitsu, aikido. I'll go for your throat.
Right. Okay.
I learned how to fall and roll.
Okay.
Willie H. did some aikido. But we were talking about the one I'm most interested in is this Krav Maga.
Okay.
Which is the Israeli fighting defensive system. But we were talking and I said, shout out to our martial artists out here, our listeners that are martial arts. I have a real interest in that. And there is a school that's supposed to be a good school in the area, but that is like real hand-to-hand combat.
Okay.
And I am not interested. I can't afford to get like punched in the face. Right. I've got to be speaking at an event. We've got to do the podcast. We're doing a bunch of interviews every week.
Right.
So it's like, hey, I can't, you elbowed me to the face. It's going to be a bigger problem than my bad.
Right. Well, exactly. There was a surgeon I used to work with. He's an orthopedic surgeon. And so his eyes and his hands are very important, as you can imagine. And I walked in the OR to work with him one day, and he had a big old shiner on his eye. And I'm like, what did you do? And he goes, well, I was trying to fix the spring on the garage door. And I'm like, you what? So you realize you lose your eye, you lose your future.
Yeah.
And he's like, next time I'm going to hire somebody.
Yeah, hindsight's yeah, right. Don't mess with a good thing.
Don't mess with it. Right. There's people that do that for a living.
I shot a AR-15. Can I say that? Oh, I could say that I shot an AR-15. That's legal, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah. So I shot an AR-15 one time, and my buddy did not tell me. I didn't know any better.
Okay.
I had the whole gun thing up to my eye. Oh, like my eye was on the scope.
Right.
I didn't know you were supposed to have your eye off the scope. I didn't understand Reek. I didn't know there was, I shoot pistols, handguns, right? And it just never crossed my mind. And boy, I had that because what I was shooting at, we were shooting at like ceiling fans,
right?
But they're on 200 acres. So it was, so I'm laying down like all, special forces. I think I'm doing something. And I had that thing right up to my eye and boom. And that thing popped back. Pow. You were a little early on that one, William. But yeah, I had that thing pow back in my eye. And he's like, oh. And I'm like, oh.
Oh, by the way.
Thank God I didn't lose my eye. All right. Well. Shout out to the people that know better.
Well, I'm laughing because I could see myself doing that. Now, it makes sense when you say it.
Yeah, right, correct.
But I could see myself doing that because I shoot skeet, but we don't have a scope.
Yeah, right. You're just trying to.
It's on my shoulder.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I'll make sure to tag him in this. All right, folks. Well, you're here at the Grow Business Podcast. You didn't come to the Comedy Channel. You are at the right place. We've got another exciting show today. I want to talk about, and I really like to see, it's so interesting observing literally the conversations I'm having, the work that we're doing, the people we're working with, because it really writes itself. Like the shows write themselves in this way, right? Like versus trying to see what, just pull it from the air. It's like, what happened this week? Or what was interesting this week that I think we need to share? And Lon, as usual, is holding on because he's got no idea what we're going to be talking about. I like to keep it fresh for him, but. And it also makes sure it's not rehearsed, right? I mean, we obviously we want to have organized content, but we also want to give you kind of real-time reflection on that. So here's what we're going to be talking about today. But today we are sharing 5, I'm going to call it 5 signs. We've learning that 5 is ideal for our timeline. But 5 signs or 5 ways, 5 things that may be an indication that it's time for you to update your branding and your software and systems in your business.
Awesome.
I can't tell you how many websites that I was on this past week where I saw troubling things. Because the easiest way to give away the age of a site is the copyright.
Oh, right.
A lot of people, because they don't bother to change their website, they don't bother to update that. So I can tell you how many 2016, 2018 copyrights I've seen, which tells me you haven't done anything significant to your site in that time. 5, 6, 7 years
since BC.
Yeah,
COVID.
Since before COVID. And what's interesting is, for most people, for most businesses, if I was to ask them, has anything changed in your business in the last 5 or 6 years? Their answer would be yes.
Right.
And that I'm talking across everything. A restaurant has had a new menu item in the past 5 years, right? Most people have some form of product or service that they didn't have 5 or 6 years ago. Even if your core product is X, chances are, especially if you've been listening to this podcast, you want to create new revenue, complementary revenue lines or opportunities. You've done something. So why would you not take the same care or same outlook in your systems? Because I see so many people getting behind because They don't take the time. Oh, this has been working for us. Yeah, the problem is the company that you're working with hasn't done anything new in 6 years.
Right.
Right. Your software, so many people during pandemic that we put that we installed online ordering systems in.
Right.
That didn't have that or had some antiquated, Joe made it in his basement and, oh, well, Cory, we only had to pay for it one time. And now we own it. Yeah, you know what that means?
Right.
There's no R&D. There's no updates.
Right.
When you buy stuff, a lot of times it's like lifetime. Oh, here, get this software or this system or this whole thing. Oh, you paid for your website. Now you don't have to pay us anymore because you own it.
Right.
Well, yeah. But when it changes or when something happens,
right,
you have to stay up to date.
Well, you do. And to your point,
you come in now. My rant. I got my initial. I like to get my initial commentary out, and then we bring you in.
Well, and I'm curious as to see the 5 things because it could be 25 really.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to go with the 5 that you've chosen. The reality of it is that the longer you let it go, the more you lose credibility.
Right.
Because you don't look like you've kept up. And so you talked about, I joke about things BC, right? But the reality of it is BC is before COVID. Now it's been 4 years.
Right.
So if you haven't done anything since before COVID, I know your business has changed. Either it's changed or you went out of business. Right. And if that's the case, well, then you don't need to change anything.
Or you potentially have a false sense of what's happening. Meaning, oh, we're doing well. Everything we're doing is working. We're doing fine.
Okay.
We're doing okay.
Right.
We're doing fine. Like word choice is very important too.
That's true.
So my concern with we're doing fine is, will that continue?
Right.
Do you have something so unique? Oh, Cory, we've got tremendous referral business. We've got tremendous repeat business. Great. What about new business?
Right.
What about new business? Where's new business going?
Right.
New business is going to the innovators.
Right.
There are people who choose a bank based on the user interface of the banking app.
100%, because they don't want to have to go to the bank.
So if you're the bank that's like, oh, we don't have time to update that. It's too much work, or we don't have the budget to update that. There are people not choosing, and it's so interesting to me because these are real conversations. Because I go back and forth over the years. I've talked about big banks. I've talked about community banks, regional banks, and where they have a role, and it's very tricky.
Right.
Because one of the things I've found out this week was, a lot of the regional and community banks have fees that big banks and fintechs in particular, that's really who's coming for everybody's lunch.
Right.
The Blue Vines, the North Ones, the Relays, the online banks that aren't banks, they're financial service tech companies that partner with banks, right?
Right.
But like the woman was telling me, she's like, oh yeah, ACH, $30 a month plus you got to pay for each ACH.
Right.
I'm like, huh?
Wow.
I'm like, I can give you 6 banks that don't charge 30. So I got to pay $360 a year to have the privilege of sitting in ACH. That's crazy. Like that's antiquated.
Right.
Like full stop on the conversation. And I understand it's a revenue source, but like that's just crazy. Like I was just looking, if we were on video, this was a phone conversation, I would look like I have 2 heads. Right. Looking at her, writing that down. I'm sorry, did I hear that number wrong?
Right. Well, and what's interesting is that having access to ACH is actually more efficient and it costs you less than having a person. And you're just taking advantage of an opportunity.
Right. $30. Oh, but we're here for the community. Right. I just an observation, but all right, let's get into these things. So we're talking about it from a branding standpoint, because that's first impression, but also we're talking about from systems. So to me, that's kind of where that lead was, is that the apps, the systems, the software that we're using too, because people don't like change. We've talked about this before. People don't want to change. And there is such thing as doing too much change. Right. I commend myself. I've stuck with a few key systems this year that I normally would have changed 62 times. My team will attest. We haven't had a lot of technical changes operationally in terms of things, which is not necessarily historic. So you can be over eager to do stuff.
100%.
Too. So
yeah.
All right. So let's start with the obvious.
Okay.
Let's start with number one: outdated look and feel.
Okay.
Right. Does your brand? I understand you're proud of your logo from 50 years ago. Right.
Right.
But everybody has to evolve, because something as simple as a logo. I see so many people's logo, and I can tell you if that's a small business, like a micro business, or if they're a larger business, or if they're a big corporation.
Right.
Starting with the logo.
Right.
Like, does somebody try to be real pithy and make it all intricate, and you can't even read it, you can't even see it? Like, I see this all the time in the micro, what I call micro business community. Like, you're not necessarily doing six figures in your business yet. I see that so much, right? And people will cut corners, get the $15 logo from Fiverr or whatever, and rest their hat on that brand.
Right.
But everybody, major corporate, General Motors, updated their logo in the past 2 years. Right now, does that correlate to their cars? Don't say GM on them, right? They say Chevrolet, they say GMC, they say Buick, but GM is as a brand, because you want to convey freshness, modernness, right? And that's the same thing on a website. Newsflash. I understand good websites can be expensive. I know our team builds them, so I know that. But a website is not a Ron Popeil rotisserie moment.
Well, and
people might not know what I'm saying. Ron Popeil, of course, created the rotisserie chicken, but he also trademarked the term "set it and forget it."
Oh, I didn't realize that.
You can't. Well, that's what I'm here to entertain and educate, right?
And educate.
So, what's important there is that you can't just check the box. You got to go back and go, does this reflect our values? Does this messaging, is this what we're about? Is this who we're trying to attract? Because maybe that changed from 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Well, and we're well into 2024 right now. At the end of 2023, at the end of last year, I read an article, and I don't remember if it was Forbes or if it was HBR or if it was Inc. magazine. It was in one of those magazines talking about this very thing. And it was specifically talking about Coca-Cola, who is a global brand. And you know who Coca-Cola is. They have the script Coca-Cola logo. And Coca-Cola and other brands were also in this article, but Coca-Cola is the most recognizable one, that are reevaluating their brand because a lot of kids in school aren't taught cursive. And Coca-Cola has a cursive brand.
They can't read Coca-Cola.
Well, it looks old. It looks old. So yes, you can read it, or even if you can't read it, but it looks old. Same thing with General Motors, the example that you just used. General Motors, as they continue to take Cadillac and Chevrolet and their GM Sierra trucks into the electric age, into battery operated and electric and hybrid, they want their logo to look like they are advancing their technology. And so if you've got the 1970s long or 1960s long Cadillac, whale tail look with the fishtails and the big C and the script Cadillac, that doesn't look updated. So the younger population, the newer people into the marketplace are going to say, well, that there was a saying, well, it's not your daddy's Cadillac. Same concept, right? So to your point, not just it's updating it to make sure that you look like you are updating your technology, because it gives impressions for everything.
100%. 100%. There was probably a good opportunity there, Willie H. Willie H is asleep. Wake up. Wake up, Willie H.
Hit the buttons, William.
Yes, exactly.
He's finally got stickers now saying which one's which.
Don't let me get over there. I bring that system right here.
Lord mercy.
I'll start hitting them. All right. So that's one. Outdated look and feel. Now, send your stuff to your 5 best clients. And say, hey, we're looking. Do you think we should consider a refresh? Do you think we can, find out.
Right.
See what your trusted clients. If you've been around long enough and you're doing good work, chances are you've got friendships that have come out of. When I think back to my early customers, early clients, many of them are friends. Where we go golfing, where I'm at their house, or even we'll vacation with them.
Right.
So those are people those are your safe zone, right? So I'm not telling you, hey, you got to go do something dramatic yet, but test it out.
Right.
Like I want you to listen to some of the things we're saying and just go back and test the waters. Right. So go to those 5 best clients. Say, hey, can you I don't know, last time you've been on our website or last time you've seen, our social media or whatever. Right. Check it out. What do you think? Do you think, you think we're looking a little outdated or old, or we need to refresh? And get the opinion from your customers.
Right.
I'm saying customers. I want to be clear. And people debate me all the time on this. Whatever. I'm not asking you to go out and talk to your friends.
Right.
And get your buddy's opinion.
Right.
Right. So in these instances, this is when you want to get the feedback from the people who have spent money with you before.
That's
and the people who are your ideal buyer or customer.
Right.
Okay. Because everyone has an opinion. So certainly your spouse or your kids or your aunties and nephews or high school buddies or fraternity guys or bowling league, they'll all have opinions.
Right.
But it has to correlate to the buyer ultimately. All right. So in keeping with the outdated look and feel, number 2 is the brand inconsistent?
Okay. Across
the platforms. Do I see something different each time?
Right.
And we've gone through this. I've gone through this in certain businesses and color schemes. What do we want to convey? Growth or success, right? The grow is green, right? And the font is like a growth kind of font,
right? And
it's green because so that only makes sense, right? So it could be purple, it could be something else, but those things, the color wheel and the color marketing wheel exist kind of for a reason,
right?
Because they develop what kind of what people feel or what emotion they can have or what it leads them to believe by how we use color.
Right. And there are people that are experts at that.
Yes.
Like there are people that are experts in brand imaging. There are people that are experts in color. There are people that are experts. I mean, the reason that hospitals hire people to come in and design their interior. Like I have a cousin who just retired. She was a longtime hospital person. She was in the interior architecture. She ran that division for actually they were a senior living center.
Yeah.
But she would come into the new facilities and design them. And then about every 5 to 7 years, she'd come back in and redesign them. And you want to create an experience. Well, color, imaging, all the things that we're talking about have an influence on how people feel.
Now, I do want to point out some of that is a hustle.
So, well, okay.
No, it's just that it was a hustle, like retail.
Right.
And why I think about that is my wife has been trying to convince me that we should be changing like our plates seasonally.
Oh, okay.
Like, our mall here.
Right.
We will typically take a shortcut. If we go to the mall, we will go through Crate and Barrel.
Okay.
To get to the mall.
Right.
Or if we need to get upstairs, we'll Crate and Barrel's escalator. We'll use that escalator. So we're always going through there, even though not necessarily buying anything. We're always going through there.
Right.
And we'll see something. Oh, they've got the fall stuff out or the winter and it's all cute and it's got the matching plates and everything. So, we should change. Absolutely not.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah. Because you know what I think? Do you know what Willie H? You got teed up what I'm going to say? What? That's just dumb. Yes. See, we're in synergy here, baby. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Well, and that's...
I just think that's a hustle.
There's an element of hustle to that for sure. There absolutely is. And, same thing, retail, there's clothing brands that you recognize.
Right.
That will keep the same styles, but change colors year over year so that you're inspired to buy something new.
Sure.
That's part of the but what it speaks to though is the ability for colors and designs to influence your buying behavior.
Yes.
Whether it's a hustle or not, if it didn't work, they wouldn't do it.
Right.
So same thing with your website, same thing with your brand.
continuity.
Are you keeping up and are you continuing?
How many slogans can you have?
Right.
Right. So, so then that's the thing, right? Oh, okay, great. I've gone on your social media. I'm seeing kind of one thing, one variant here.
Right.
Now I'm going over here. It looks kind of different. Like now, do I even question the authenticity of the brand? Like by looking at that? Because it really can be confusing and also weaken your brand identity.
Right. Yeah.
So, all right.
100%.
So brands across platforms. All right. Number 3, difficulty in adaptation. So what we mean here, let's think about this from the standpoint of software, right? Mm-hmm. So integration, new tools come in. There's a big emphasis now you'll see on kind of more all-in-one solutions, more inclusive solutions that can allow you to do multiple things. Right. I see a lot of people out there piecemealing everything together. Which is interesting. Right. We see this when we're doing, particularly when we're overhauling like a client's CRM system, their contact management system, those things. And, we go, all right, great. What does it take to sell something inside your company? And it's like, hey, okay, great. Well, first, Cory, they go in over here, and then we put them in this email system, and then we go into this system to generate a quote, and then we go into this system for the invoice, and we go in this system that's in the contract. Right. And I'm like, dude, my head is spinning. Right. Now, and if you've been in business for a time, it's acceptable to you because you have settled in to that process. Right. Right. That's how you're used to doing things. It's kind of like, you talk about certain people retire and then drop dead. Right. Because the guy was working in the steel mill for 30 years, up at 5 a.m. and now retires, and he's not doing that. And it just and then it's like the body shocks and just takes you out. Right. Like it's kind of like that. So if you've got some crazy process, well, if you do the process long enough, it's not that crazy. Right. Well, it becomes rote. Right. Right. It's habitual. It becomes rote. Even if it's inefficient, it's still. Well, just because it works for you doesn't mean it works for everybody. Right, right. And so I think... we're doing that by hand. What do you mean the computer can do it? We're doing this by hand here. Right, exactly. And I think, too, though, is... So finding the balance of how do you evolve, right? Mm-hmm. Finding that balance. Unless you absolutely have to change everything, change one thing at a time. Yeah. Make it easier for you. But you got to be aware. You got to recognize that there's some challenges involved with it. And we're talking small scale stuff. Right. I just read the article. Tyler Perry, the producer, sitting on whatever 300 acres. Is it 300 acres, Willie H? Or am I light? I might be a little light. Yeah. But he just made an announcement that he is putting a $800 million expansion on hold. Right. Because of what he's seeing in the impact of AI-based filmmaking. Yeah. That's a lot of jobs. That's when you think about an $800 million investment, obviously he'd be doing that to make 7 times that back over whatever it's going to allow him to do. But that $800 million, not just new employees, that's the construction company. Right. That's the furniture. That's the people who supply the concrete. There's so many things that are now affected, and that he's going to stop that, has put that on a definite hold to now study and look at where that reinvestment would take place. Right. That's paying attention though, because what someone who's not astute goes, I've been successful doing it this way. Right. This is what I understand. We got to build more sound stages, and we got to do that. And now he goes and makes an $800 million investment. Right. While this other stuff's going on over here, and then realizes that he's over leveraged when he could have spent, a fraction of that to get the results that he was looking for. That's big. That's big church scale. Say amen. Yeah, that's big scale. Right. We're talking about. So think about that in your own business with efficiency. Well, and it's, it says, so one, he had invested some money already. Yeah. Because he, designs, plans, all the things that he's already invested in. Yep. And he said, you know what, before I do this, let me make sure, because I read the same article and it's incredibly insightful on his part to stop and say, wait a minute, this world's moving quickly. Does that type of investment make sense? Even though I've already invested some resources. Right. It's like hiring somebody that you're not willing so now you're emotionally invested in that person. He's emotionally invested in that, but he was willing to say, wait a minute. Yep. That doesn't make sense to continue to go on until I learn more about what's possible. Right. So that's a great example about updating
And being aware of what's going on currently while you're updating.
How can you save time? Like, what Lon knows, if somebody wants to transact business with us, you don't really leave the ecosystem, right? They go from how we got them, how we've communicated with them, to pay, to check out, to invoice, it doesn't leave the ecosystem.
Right.
Like, we had to do 62 different things. It becomes more cumbersome.
Right.
If someone called our office right now and said, hey, we want to book an interview, we want Cory to come keynote, we want to do consulting, like, we're gonna be able to make that transaction happen. Really. Oh, well, hold on. Slow down, sir. Let me pull up my computer. Computer's going slow today for some reason. Hold on. Because we've all heard that crap on a customer service. Like, hold on. My computer's acting up, sir. Hang on there. Like, we're going to be able to do that. We'll whip out a QR code on somebody.
Exactly.
We'll do that in a second.
It won't take,
Hey, you want to buy something? Open your phone. We're going to make that happen right now.
We'll take
Type
care of
this
that,
in. www. No, I'm just kidding.
Yay.
Did you hit a button? No, I saw a button.
Yay.
All right. So that's good. Difficulty in adaptation. So got to pay attention. Come up for air. Look around.
Right.
What do we use now? How long have we been using? Are they innovating? There's so much buy-sell going on out here too. Software companies are being gobbled up. Banks, all these things being gobbled up. Many times, growth R&D dies in those absorptions. So there might be a great software company that you signed up with 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that's been great. Maybe they've gotten bought and there's been no updates. They're still on version 3.2.1 and they haven't done anything with it because, and again, not on your end, on the business side, that absorption was use it or lose it money. If it was a public company, they had to make an investment for their investors to stay off their butt. Economies of scale that were created. People were laid off there was no intention to develop the software. They just wanted to acquire the client base to cross-sell. There's so many things in the business world that go on when that happens. But you as an end user, as a business owner, you're there just trying to run your business every day. Not realizing that they don't plan on updating a button on your software in the near future. So, or you're caught in the chasm. We Square, we do business with them in our retail operations, and they acquired a company for franchise so they can get in the franchise game. So they acquired a company that was already doing it. So they had to spend this period of time making all that talk. So when I was talking to some of the leadership team, they said, "Oh, well, it's going to do this, just not yet, or it's going to here's the integration we got so far, right? So you got to be prepared for that, but look around. I don't want paralysis through analysis, but awareness is key. There just might be some greater opportunity, or there might be a lower cost, higher ROI, because you start doing math. Sometimes, as a business owner, you start looking at your expenses. You're like, and we did this. We use Google Meet now, instead of Zoom. Shout out to Shannon Loy. She's like, I'm like, oh, it's Google Meet. Now, I had a bad experience in the past with Google Meet and Microsoft Teams. Pre-COVID, they were kind of like R&D. They weren't really caring about that component. And then that came. So when I started using it again, I'm like, oh, it's pretty good. And I'm like, we're already on Google Workspace. That's where our email is. It comes with what I'm already paying. So why am I paying extra for Zoom? So it made sense. So now and we're talking about, okay, great, Cory, you cut $32 a month. $32 a month is almost $400 a year. With one good decision. Yeah, let me tell you, Lon likes snacks. So that $400 over the course of the year, that buys a lot of what is it called? Trail mix. That buys a lot of trail mix. So people like snacks here. We had some clients in. They crushed the Laura bar. We had some Laura bars and some stuff in there. Awesome. They crushed those. There are a lot of people going to be eating good at their leisure off those extra bars because nobody needed all those bars to be at the office. All right.
Well, and what I'll say is because we got way into the weeds on this one, but bringing it back is what's in alignment, making it easy, updating your brand, updating the.
You're coming into 4. I'm going to give you 4 and then let you pick up.
Thank you.
4 is poor user experience.
Yep.
So are there things in your business now that are not, I talk about business centric or customer centric?
Right.
Are there some things that are customer centric, a poor user interface,
Right.
a poor process in terms of experience? Even, I'm judgy. So if I roll into a place and I don't know, whatever, sometimes I get in trouble for saying stuff, but that's all right. Like we have Fiji water here.
Okay.
Right? On purpose.
Right.
When I go somewhere and they hand me like a little 100-meter like Kirkland water, I'm like, hold on, Buckaroo. Yeah, I'm like, so you can call me whatever you want, whatever that makes me. I don't care. But I make I'm like,
Right.
So that to me is a customer experience point. So if you're giving me water, you're having it available, that is a point of interface for me to whether think more highly of your brand,
right,
or
Well, what else? Where else are you making?
Somebody's going to make a comment inevitably, but that's all right.
That's because they're not busy enough in their life.
What's wrong with Kirkland water, Cory? You too good for Kirkland water? Just not my preference.
Well, I think what we're talking about and how it applies to this conversation is consistency. If somebody hands you Kirkland water, you're going to think that that's the type of business that they run, and they're going to make Kirkland water decisions in the rest of their business.
Right.
If somebody hands you Fiji water, you're going to think that they make Fiji water decisions in the rest of their business, which means they're going to choose better.
Right. We want to elevate the experience.
Exactly.
I'm willing to pay more for the water to elevate the experience that our guests have.
Right. And we'll go back, and I think you've probably gotten this story from you before, but in the car business, right? Let's say you sell a fancy German automobile, Mercedes, Audi, pick one, Porsche, and you are selling, and you have coffee in your place, and you've got the lowest price Costco coffee in the
Sanka.
Sanka.
That's what I talk about in my speeches.
Right. So that's what it is. I've heard you talking about. So you've got instant coffee in a luxury automobile dealership.
Complete letdown.
Right, 100%. Because what it says is, where else are you cutting corners?
Well, here's the cool thing, because that's a great point you're making. You can reverse that also.
Right.
Deliver an experience beyond. You talk about, obviously, auto is an area where I have a lot of experience, but you talk about that. One of the coolest dealerships that I saw early on was a GMC, Pontiac GMC store. So, that's a mid-level, they were one of the first people I saw with like soda machines.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like you can get like legit Coca-Cola you were talking about. You can get, they had soda machines. They had some stuff like that in there so that you are in the service lounge, right? And you can have a beverage that you're used to having.
Right.
But just something like that, they just had little things that they did that even though you might be there for, back then a Pontiac Breeze or whatever, $15,000 car, which is the entry level vehicle. Just because you were there for that didn't mean you had to feel like you were there for that, right?
Exactly.
So how can we elevate the experience? And now this may be commonplace, but it wasn't back then.
Right.
To have a retail soda machine, and I'm not talking about you need quarters. I'm saying go right up and click the button, just like being at McDonald's or something.
Like the fountain soda.
Yeah, exactly. So they were doing things to elevate the experience in terms of how the lounge looked and those things, to elevate the experience for those customers also.
Right.
So to go beyond, so not just meeting expectations. In your example, a high-end buyer expects high-end amenities.
Right.
Right. If I was in Cartier and they brought out Kirkland water, that's just dumb. that would be a problem. Is what it would be.
Yes, it would.
I mean, it's incongruent.
Correct.
So now, if you serve me Kirkland water in Walmart or Sam's Club, then that would make sense, right? They're on brand, doing that.
Exactly right.
So all right. Cory, you're a water snob. Yes, I might be.
Well, and even if you are, what we're talking about, and the point, I don't want to lose the point on this, is consistency of experience.
Yeah, bring it back together.
Well, consistency of experience and consistency of expectation, right?
Yes.
Are you on brand? Is it consistent? All the things that we're talking about in this conversation, I don't know what 5 is yet, but we're talking about, does each step of the process align with every other step of the process? And are people getting the level of expectation that you've established?
Gotcha.
Voice of reason.
There it is, just like that. Voice of reason always brings it home. See, that's why this is such a good yin and yang here, right? I go off the rail for a moment, we bring it back. But I mean, it is all under the same umbrella, though, needless to say. Yeah. All right, so next one is, and the final one, we made it. Ha! Yay! That was a live yay. Okay, changing business goals or target audience.
Okay.
So many times a business will evolve. Whether that's expansion, that could be expansion in new markets,
right?
Change of product or service,
right?
We've seen that in a lot of different ways. Even like our client base and some of the people we're working with has evolved and just changed. Right. Even coming out of like the automotive industry and moving into other areas, it's just an evolution. So how do you take how do you materialize that basically? So, your demographic may have changed. Maybe you're serving an older audience, a younger audience. Right. You got to evolve accordingly. So has the changes in your business, has the approach that you've taken to your branding, your messaging, your technology, has that changed with your business?
Right.
And if your business has changed, have you brought those things up to speed? Did you change offices, move into nice new fancy offices, but you brought the Tandy computers with you?
All right, Radio Shack.
Those computers still work. We're bringing them, right? So
that's exactly right.
And
that's
I've seen that.
Right. Well, I think it's a couple things. One, if you are making a conscious decision to change your target audience, you have to make a conscious decision to align your brand with what that target with going after that audience. Yeah. So 100%.
I remember I had a client. I remember a dealership client. He's a good friend of mine. So I ain't ever gonna say his name, but he's a good friend of mine. But he had remodeled his showroom.
Okay.
And great. Oh, yeah, I come by, see the showroom. Great. On the way, come over. And I'm looking across the showroom and I see these big monitors. The CRT.
Oh, yeah.
The big chunky ones, the ones that weigh like 30 pounds. I see all these monitors. Right. Now, by then, we had flat screens were available. Right. Dell, flat screens. And I'm looking and I'm like, hey, what's with the monitor? These big CRT monitors in this new showroom. He's like, oh, you won't believe it. Got them for $8 a piece. I said, that's great. The problem is his whole showroom's glass.
Right.
So you got a CRT screen with sun hitting the screen all day. I said, the problem is they're $8, but no one can see anything.
So that's the problem? That's the problem that you're going to focus on and not the consistency?
But he was so proud that he only paid $8. Everybody's going to go. I said, everybody's going to go blind, but you got him for $8.
Well, and I mean, so yes, I can believe you got him for $8.
Yes.
Because that's how old that technology is.
I still talk to him about it. Right. It's hilarious.
Well, and those are the things that as friends we hold on to forever, right? Because 100%. That's our go back to. But to your point.
I'm going to call him too and tell him I was talking about that today.
Hey, listen to the episode and that's funny. Wherever the minute marker is, the timestamp that we're at, tell them where we're at. But the reality of it is this, though, is again, it speaks to, if you're elevating your experience, are you elevating the whole experience? Are you creating an opportunity for people to doubt your ability to elevate the entire experience? Because if you build this beautiful Taj Mahal, and you still have outhouses, what are people like? Well, what else is like? Is it just a movie set and all we have is a front wall and there's nothing behind it? Can we believe in the changes that they're making? Right. They're not consistent all the way through.
100%. Well, listen, just some food for thought. I mean, that's the deal here.
Right.
And I stress this over and I say it all the time and I'll never stop saying it. I like things that are simple.
Right.
Meaning, here's the ask. We've asked them to do a few things.
Right.
We haven't told them they're wrong.
Right.
We haven't told them that their business won't be successful if they don't do any of this. But it's some simple asks.
Right.
Your brand is whether outdated and could use some updating.
Right.
Ask some of your customers.
Right.
If everyone comes back and go, no, this is great. Everything's fresh. We love it. We still love it. Okay. Check the box and move on.
Right.
Go to the places that your brand is and see if the message is consistent.
Right.
If it's not, make some changes. If it is, great. If it isn't and you don't care, unless you took a look.
At least you took a look.
Right? So that's the same thing. What experience do customers have when doing business with your business? Right? When's the last time you've gone through your own process? Particularly if you've got a company with multiple employees, divisions, or multiple job responsibilities, you may not know. I do this all the time with car dealers. I say, you tell me what the process for X, Y, and Z is supposed to be. And I'd ask the dealer, and then I'd keep going down the line till I got to the frontline person. And I'd have 4 different stories. The owner would have a story, the general manager would have a story, the sales manager would have a story, and then the actual person would say, well, no, it doesn't work like that at all. There was a disconnect. So this is the story here for us. For us, it's challenge yourself. Ask these questions. Just run it through the mill one time. And if there's an opportunity and you see it, take action. If not, know that you checked in on an area of your business that could be affecting growth.
Make it a regular part of your planning or your review process. Say, hey, look, how are we showing up? You like it? Okay, good. Can we make some changes? Okay, good. But at least it becomes part of your checklist, right?
And that's much faster. And less of a cop-out than going, oh, Cory, I'm just so busy. Cover it up.
Right, exactly.
My friends out in West Virginia used to say that. Oh, cover it up right now. Cover it up. What are you doing?
I'm throwing dirt on it.
It's like one customer here. Like, what are you covered up? You got one voicemail and covered up. Like, that's the default for everybody. Oh, busy.
Right.
Alas, we have come to another end.
To quote the great Jerry Glanville in the old NFL commercial, you keep doing that, it's going to be not for long.
Hence the name NFL.
That's
not for long. All right, folks. We've come to the end of another episode. We hope you were educated. We hope you were entertained. Those are our primary goals. But we really want you to make sure you're taking action, right? Don't just be entertained. Don't just say, oh, those guys are crazy, or that was good stuff. I want to hear your stories of how you're taking action. Hey, you know what? We thought we had a great brand until we asked 5 of our customers.
Exactly.
And you know, there was a place I used to do business. I said, man, if I didn't like you, there's no way I would come in this place. I feel weird even using the bathroom. I feel like I'm going to catch something. But I like you, so I still do it. Willie H. Eyes just came out of his head. Willie H. You've never been in one of those bathrooms or businesses or situations where you're looking around and you're like, ugh. Ugh. Maybe that's a new button. Ugh. We have to get that as a soundbite.
That is a good soundbite.
All right. LG 007, thank you for your words of wisdom as always.
It was fun. Thank you.
Willie H, thank you for manning the buttons.
Man in the booth.
And all that you're doing. Yeah, manning the booth, the virtual booth. And most importantly, I want to thank our listeners. I want to thank our listeners, our listenership. I love to see the graphs go up and not down, right? As in business, you want things going up, not down. So we love that we're welcoming new listeners every week. New people are getting exposed to what we're doing. We encourage you, and that's a testament to you coming back every week, but also you sharing it. And you letting other people know that there's value in this conversation, because there's a lot of competition for attention. There's a lot of podcasts. There's a lot of people, you know. The problem with the internet is everyone has a voice. The benefit of the internet is everyone has a voice. So there's a gift and curse. And frankly, you have to decide who you want to listen to, who you want to interact with, who you want to give your time to. So for those of you coming back week after week, and for those of you that are new to the podcast, we thank you. We're happy you're here. We're doing this for you. And we want to hear your stories of continued success. So that's been it for the Grow Business Podcast. We're getting out of here. I'm Cory Mosley, and you are
Lon Graham.
Willie H is here too, and we will see you next week. Hopefully. Willie H is pushing those buttons. Always have hope and optimism. That is the key. Good stuff.
That's good. Yeah.
Tell you what. We need that one. I tell you what. Remember, by the time it's over, we're going to have like 100.